Hello everybody, Marcia back today. I have a scrapbook process video for you today for My Creative Scrapbook using the March kit. This kit features the Pink Paislee Bloom Street collection by Paige Taylor Evans. So there are some cut files that came along with the kit, and what I did is I cut out this frame with the flower, and then I flipped it horizontally, and cut I welded actually welded the two together and then cut it out. So I'm paper piecing now some pieces to fill in behind my flower. So I thought I would keep it really soft. I want to go with like a rainy effect here. I'm going to use the pattern paper in this collection that has the raindrops. And so I want my flowers to look really soft and watery. So that's why I'm backing this cut file with this really soft blue and the greens and a little bit of the purple from geometric pattern paper. I didn't cut out these shapes in my silhouette before, so I am kind of just gluing pieces of paper down over the cut file and then trimming around them. It's a bit tedious, but the results are well worth it. I really like backing the cut files, and these are really gorgeous cut files that came with the kit. I believe there were 8 different cut files, so I didn't even use them all. I'm kind of a cut file junkie, but I did 4 layouts with this kit, and I think I used cut files on almost every layout, and I still haven't used all of the cut files that came with the kit. I still have lots of pattern paper too left over after doing 4 layouts. Lots of pattern paper and lots of embellishments left over. This kit really is a bargain. You get tons of stuff. So I'm back in the leaves here on this one, and you can start to see how this is going to look. Really beautiful flowers, soft pastel colors in here. So once I have both of these flowers backed, doesn't it look just beautiful? Really soft. I'm going to put my photos in here. So these are actually about, I was thinking 5 by 5, but I think they're a little bit smaller. I think they're more like 4.5 by 4.5. I needed the extra room for the flowers going beyond the 5 by 5, so these are actually, I think, 4.5 by 4.5. After I have my photos glued in here, I wanted to tear this raindrop paper. I only want the pattern paper at the top of my layout, and I thought it needed a little bit of blue to transition into the bottom of my layout. I actually want to do some mixed media here in the bottom of my layout and have it kind of look like raindrops dribbling down the page. So the way I'm going to do that is with some acrylic paint. So I dug out a bunch of my blue acrylic paint, and I'm going to water it down a lot. Now you see me struggling with this acrylic paint with my my tool getting in here. This paint had dried out at the top, but it still had some good paint at the bottom of the bottle. It's really old paint. I don't know if you remember the Making Memories or I think that's Making Memories that I got at Argivers like years ago. But I still use this every once in a while. I like when I'm want drips on a page, I really like using the acrylic paint and watering it down like I'm doing here. So I have some light blue I put in the middle, and then I thought I would go with a darker blue on the edges, and I kind of wanted a purple blue. So I have this purple distress paint that I had, and this looked more pink to me, so I wasn't happy with it. So I'm going to add a little bit of blue paint to this as well, some darker blue, and mix the two together and hopefully maybe achieve what I'm looking for. This paint was dried out quite a bit too. So I'm mixing the two now with my little tool here and adding water to thin it out. When you do this technique on the page, you want the paint to be really runny. So if it doesn't run off my plastic here, there's not enough water there. So I'm going to add more water here and mix it a little bit more. I'm going to try to drip paint next to both sides of the light blue and dribble it at the same time down the page. You see me kind of trying to distribute the paint here between. A lot of this isn't going to show. I do have the top half is going to be covered with a pattern paper. Now this paint didn't run as nicely as the blue did for me. I think because I didn't smush it down on my cardstock first. I didn't use any gesso on this cardstock either. It's a really heavy, it's like double weight cardstock from Basil. And this is my favorite paper for mixed media because it's so heavy. It does warp a little bit, but once when it gets wet, but once it's dry, I can run it through my Heidi Swap Mink, or you can use any heat thermal laminator. And the heat, when it's going through the Mink, when it's going through the laminator, will help to straighten it out so it doesn't warp so much. It also helps to dry it out if it's not completely dried out. I wouldn't put it through there wet though. Make sure that it's mostly dry. So I'm going to start adhering down my pattern paper at the top now that this is dry. I did run this paper through my Mink before I'm adding the pattern paper to the top. So I wanted to stick this blue paper in between, and it's a little too wide, so I'm going to trim it down and get it to be just a little bit smaller. So I also if I hadn't had my adhesive so close to the edge, maybe it wouldn't have been a problem, but I just want a little bit of blue showing here, and you can see how it looks now with the photos over the top. So we're going to adhere this down. I did put some foam adhesive on the back of my photos as well as some chipboard I'm recycling. So the chipboard gives it some sturdiness too behind my photos and helps recycle my materials, and I don't have to throw this excess chipboard away. I can find a use for it, and it works really well behind my photos. So the next thing I want to do is put my title down on here. I want to put my title below my photos here. So I'm using the alphas that came in the kit. These are foam thickers, and they have a glitter sparkle to them. So you can kind of see that in the video. They're kind of sparkly. But I think they'll show up against my background here with the rain drips on the bottom. So my title is actually the location for my photos. I haven't told you yet what I'm scrapping here. My daughter in January went to Peru on a World Vet trip. So she volunteered a week of her time. She's an emergency veterinarian. She volunteered a week of her time in Peru they did clinics where they could do vaccinations, and they spayed and neutered just tons of cats and dogs, and people waited outside in the rain for hours just to be able to have their beloved pets seen by veterinarians. So it was really cool. And I couldn't believe when I saw pictures how calm these animals are. It's like this little kitten here was being held by this little girl, not struggling to get away at all. It's like she knows she's in a good place. She's got someone to take care of her. She's not living on the streets. And it's like this little kitten knows that. And she's just being as calm as can be and letting this little girl hold her as if she were like a little baby. It's just adorable. So I put my title down on here. You saw me using a ruler to space out my letters before I put them down, and so I could figure out where I wanted them to go. And then I added some journal strips. So the last thing I'm going to do is to add a few embellishments. There were a couple embellishments specifically for rain, I thought. The rain boots and these umbrellas. So I thought I would add these at the top and around here my title and my journaling. And this is kind of basically all I'm going to do as far as embellishing. I think there's enough there with the die cut frames and the mixed media, and I didn't want to detract from my photos by adding a bunch of more stuff. I really like how this turned out. So I'm putting some foam adhesive behind my umbrellas as well to give them a little bit of dimension. And once I had these down, I added some Nouveau drops too to make it look like rain. They're transparent Nouveau drops, and it really had a cool effect. So there you have it. There's my layout. Thanks so much for stopping by. Be sure to check back to see the other layouts I've created too with this wonderful kit.